At least I'm a little bit more prepared at that point.
At least you're watching them, though, right?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Exactly. If they want to go to just a straight website, what's the best website for them to go to get the information?
For preparedness in general, I would say mil.wa.gov/preparedness.
Perfect.
But we also have /earthquake/volcano.
And that was, I wanted to bring up the volcano one. Because first off, you go there, and I know that people realize about Mount St. Helens, and they realize that Mount Rainier, both of those are volcanoes. But there's actually a lot more even major volcanoes in this area.
Well, aren't you like a specialist for volcanoes and earthquakes or something?
Yeah, so I'm the earthquake and volcano. I'm the earthquake and volcano program coordinator, so that is my specialty here.
Okay.
And so we have the two that I mentioned of the volcanoes. What are some of the other volcanoes, the major ones in this area?
You know any?
No, I just know I'm scared of them. That's all I know of, man.
Well, that's fair. So we got, like you said, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens. Mount Adams is also a volcano.
Oh, okay.
Mount Baker, if you go up almost to the border, that's ours and Canada's volcano.
Oh, nice.
And
Sure.
then we also have Glacier Peak hiding out there.
Where's Glacier Peak at?
So it's in Snohomish County, kind of to the east a little bit. It hides in there, but it's definitely an active volcano.
And when you hear this sort of stuff, you okay with that?
No, I'm like, which one scares you the most?
Probably the one I see the most.
Rainier.
Rainier.
Dude, it freaks me out every time I look at it. Every time I look at it, I imagine it like going off. Like,
Really?
Yeah, every time. And I'm like,
Every time?
Yes, almost every time. Yeah, it
You
freaks
just live
me
an
out,
anxious life, don't you?
dude. Yeah, dude. You have no idea.
Well, and also, I mean, you live in Puyallup. And
Well, yeah.
so that's kind of one of those interesting areas when you're down there because you hear every month the har siren. And the first time my wife heard it, it freaked her out like really badly because she didn't have no idea what it was. Then she heard it, and then she looked it up and figured out, oh, that's what that is. But most people, I don't know if they even necessarily know what a lahar is. What is a lahar?
So that's a good thing to clarify.
Yeah.
We call it a volcanic mud flow.
Okay.
It's an Indonesian word for it. So ours are mainly going to happen when snow and ice start to melt really rapidly. Mm-hmm. In Indonesia, they're also really common because they get a lot of ash falling on the slopes of their volcanoes.
Oh, okay.
And then when a monsoon or something comes in, heavy rain, it just mobilizes all that ash to move downstream.
Oh, geez. Oh, wow.
right.
But
I
really
heard.
that's-
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I see, I was just gonna keep jumping in. I'm super scared of this.
You can do that too.
So I heard that you can actually have a lahar without an eruption, right? You can just have enough gas or steam vents that happen and mud just flows down the hill. Is that true?
It is possible, but that's extremely rare that we would have a lahar that reaches down into our river valleys without an eruptive activity.
Okay.
So last 9 or 10 eruptions of Mount Rainier, that's only even one of them
Oh,
Okay.
over the last 10,000 years.
okay.
Okay, yeah, you
that
say
makes
the
me feel
last like
better,
9 or 10 of them. I'm like, how far back are we looking on this
back
one?
that far.
So, no, but that's one of the, I mean, Scott is terrified that the fact that
Not
the
terrified.
volcanoes are going to erupt and,
though. I'm pretty scared of it.
yeah. What's the frequency on something like this? I mean, you said 9 to 10 in 10,000 years. Is that a normal sort of thing? Like on an average 1,000 years sort of thing? Or how does that even work out?
So it's not really that regular. They've seen some of them that sort of have repeating activity over a period of time. Like if you look, you can look at the Cascades Volcano Observatory from the USGS. Their website has a lot of good graphics on this.
Oh,
but
neat.
It's like Mount Rainier kind of had a cluster of eruptions over a period of time, and then it's kind of stopped for a little while.
Now, when something like that happens, I mean, you see the doom and gloom, the 10.0 special that they have on the earthquakes and all of this stuff. Does that mean that we are quote unquote due for something, or does it even work that way?
Yeah, geology is not like a library book, is the way we like to put it. Things are all going to happen when they happen, and it could be tomorrow, it could be in 30 minutes, it could be not in our lifetimes.
That doesn't work for me. I need a date.
I need to put something in my planner here.
Well, unfortunately, as a volcano coordinator, I cannot do that, but
Ooh.
I wish I could some days. But
Well, and so the big thing on that is the fact that we don't know when it could happen. You should probably be always prepared in at least the basic sense on that. And what does that mean for when you're talking to people about emergency preparedness? What are some of the things that you absolutely need when dealing with any sort of natural disaster situation?
well, so the tips we like to say are be informed, make plans, build kits, and get involved. So being informed, for one thing, is just understanding this idea of due versus overdue, and that this event that's going to happen without warning is extremely rare because we do monitor our volcanoes, and they do kind of have this. They will give us warning before an eruption, not necessarily before a huge landslide. But again, that's really rare.
Man.
that this Lahar
Good
would
job,
happen.
Scott.
I know. Yeah, I
But
was
yeah.
feeling better for a minute, but you just freaked me out again.
Well, you can get this warning that there's going to be, say, an elevated unrest in activity.
Okay. And you guys just get that from like earthquake,
Yeah.
I imagine? Yeah.
So
Earthquake
they have
data.
mainly seismometers out there. They have some GPS measuring it. You can tell if it's inflating. I like to think of this as taking like the heartbeat and blood pressure of the volcano.
Oh, neat.
So you know if they go a little crazy. Now, also with that, I mean, we always say, I mean, that's getting your health measurement, but you get something wrong with your health, you check WebMD, you go to the doctor. It's not always cancer. Not all
Don't
unrest.
always check WebMD, guys. I mean, don't ever go to WebMD. Seriously.
Not all unrest is going to lead to an eruption. So,
And we saw that recently in the last, I don't know how long ago it was. You probably know because you're an expert on these sort of things. The last time that we saw some activity from Mount St. Helens recently, I mean, we had the eruption in 1980, and that was a gigantic event, which actually someone, I don't know if they colorized, but they one of the pictures of the eruption from fairly close has been making the rounds online, and it looks. It's astounding. Like it's awesome in the actual meaning of like inspiring awe when you see this just gigantic plume of smoke and ash
Just half
and
the
mountain.
it just
yeah.
explodes, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty unbelievable to see.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're seeing something along the lines of the steaming that was going on the last decade or so like that, what are you thinking when you see something along those lines? Because you said not everything ends in eruption. Were you guys expecting maybe something to happen on that end, or how does that work?
So that's why we like to have the experts look at it, and they're watching it very closely, all of these. So again, they might, if something is happening, first thing they're going to do is put out an information statement. So again, that's going in this Be Informed. Know who the experts are that can give you this information. The experts are the people that have the instruments on the mountain.
Awesome.
And you can sign up for a volcano notification service where you'll just get these alerts emailed right to you.
Oh, really?
If I
Perfect.
can give you the website for that to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll put that up right up on the descriptor of this podcast as well. So a lot of people can just click on right on straight on from all the other things. What was the second thing after being informed?
Build kits.
Yes. And I'm very enthused about this because my wife and I have just been talking about all of this, and we're like, okay, we need to figure out what we're going to put in a kit, or even how long we should have a kit set for, like 3-day kit or however long. What do you tell people about building a kit?
So in general, at the state level, we always tell people to be 2 weeks ready. 14 days of supplies. Now, if you check with your local emergency management, I know you guys had Josh on here earlier. Maybe if you asked Josh, he would say something different, but I believe they still say 2 weeks in Tacoma.
Okay.
The idea for that is people will be coming to rescue you, but after a massive event like a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake 9.0, you can have a lot of bridge damage, a lot of infrastructure, things falling into the roads, landslides. It's going to take them time. You're going to be the first people that are responding. You're going to be the first responders. So,
that's a really good point on that. Yeah.
just you and your community members. So we want people to be ready to kind of be on their own, so they don't need help. You have the power to do that, just a little bit at a time, and you can have this kit ready.
And that was one thing you mentioned with the community, was that when we were talking with Josh, it was those things that something as simple as just, hey, go and talk with your neighbors and figure out, you might have a doctor in your neighborhood, and it might be good to know that, because if somebody gets injured, you know who to go to, who may be in the neighborhood, who can help out, or at least direct people on things to do.
Yeah, find out if there's a doctor in your neighborhood, if someone knows first aid or CPR, maybe if somebody has a chainsaw for trees that fall down, or on the other side, if there's somebody that you know you need to check on, somebody that might need help, have medical equipment that might go out without the power.
And that's, I know we got a couple of elderly people in our neighborhood, and it's one of those things, like the original owners of the houses in some of the cases. And so, yeah, something like that happens, it's like, well, we definitely need to go and hang out with them and make sure that they're okay on that end.
Yes.
And so with the 2 weeks prepared, is that like 2 weeks water, food? What are some of the other things that are really good to have in some of these emergency preparedness kits?
Well, one thing a lot of people seem to forget is just if you're 2 weeks without power and water, you're going to need some comfort items. Just like, this is not normal when you don't have power, when you don't have water for that long.
Yeah.
So just something that makes you happy. I mean, like I have trouble without coffee for that long, so I keep those little packets of instant
the little
coffee.
ones, yeah.
Or even just those tea bags that are coffee. chocolate covered espresso beans. Those are fantastic.
So yeah,
Um,
okay, that actually is a good thing because you think about all of the small things. You know, oh, I need some sort of like radio, or I need like a we got the hand powered lantern sort of thing. So one of
Yes.
those things that doesn't need batteries because sometimes
Uh-huh.
batteries are going to be in short supply. But you have those things. But even just having a comfort item that makes a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people do overlook that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's just all things that there's the very important things to life. You need warm clothes in case it's cold out, food, water, shelter,
Mm-hmm.
but then also just the things that are going to make you happy. And man, if you're not thinking about like septic issues,
Ooh, yeah.
hygiene items, that sort of thing,
Oh yeah, maybe just a bunch
you will not be happy.
a bunch of baby wipes.
See, I've been doing it right, dude, because I've been packing all the good things. I've been packing candy bars and lots of beer, all
Yeah.
the things that make me feel good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Have you done any of the other
I got water.
things? Okay, lots of water, or do you just have a couple
No,
water bottles?
we have kits. It's funny because we have water, and then we have like some first aid kits and stuff set around. I don't think we have much food. We just don't. I don't know why. I should probably. I don't know. Do you store food like that? Do you put food away?
I had some neighbors who did that. They basically lined their garage with a
see.
lot of food. They weren't necessarily like doomsday preppers, but they were always very, very prepared. And I kind of always scoffed at that. But now, as being a little bit older and kind of understanding that you just don't know what's going to happen, and a lot of times you can get those non-perishable things, and then even just having like some water. They had those big gigantic tankers that you take out like camping sort of thing. But I was always wondering about that too. Is like, do you need to like
You have
kind
to
of
rotate that. shit,
rotate the water?
right.
Because that was one of those things that I was like, you can't have it there for like 5 years and expect that.
Well, you can.
Well, I guess it kind of works if you need it. Another thing that I found out about is I've got some family members who love to do like hiking and stuff. And they would have like the water bottle with the filter in it, but now they even make like filtration, like just devices through like straws. And I think those are pretty smart ideas to have because, like, I think just going to a camping store or like going on like at a hiking place, like a Bass Pro Shop. I told you last night was a little rough, but or even like the Cabela's or anything along those lines, because they have a huge camping section
Right.
and hiking,
And
and
they're fun to shop in.
They
so
are.
Why not? Why not just go and make your kit, right?
right. And so that's kind of those fun things to have on that. And I'd have to imagine that you guys have all the information for those emergency preparedness kits right on the website as well.
Yeah, we have our 2 weeks ready kit that looks like a little backpack, and that's a fun brochure that a lot of people have. And that's just kind of the idea. Is I was just trying to reinforce some of the things you might not think of when you think, why should I have comfort items? And then for rotating things out, I
Yeah.
mean, there's always the idea you're supposed to check your smoke detector batteries every 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it a habit of maybe rotating out some water during that time as well.
Nice.
Write
I
some
don't even
dates on
have
it.
smoke detectors. Oh shit.
Might be good to have those as well. That's kind of a different type of
Obviously.
preparedness. but-
Yeah, where are you living, man? Are you just living in a shack down by the Puyallup River?
Kind of.
And what was the third thing on your list of 4?
So they're kind of interchangeable, but make plans is what we'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So some ideas, if you have kids in school, how are you going to contact them? What's the
Yeah.
school's reunification plan? That's a good thing to find out ahead of time because a lot
Yeah.
of schools don't really like it when you show up in the middle of the day, when adults show up in the middle of the day and try to take kids.
Oh, yeah, that's probably a good call, especially, I mean, just the simple fact of there's going to be a lot of chaos going on, and just having someone show up, it's like, yeah, it's my kid, but like how often is like one person who works there maybe one day a week who's like just like helping out really going to know what's going on? And then it's like, you might be the parent or uncle or something. I'm
Yeah.
not giving you your child.
And I'm glad they're suspicious about that.
Yeah.
So-
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, so just kind of find out what the plan is for the school. Don't immediately rush the school and try to pick people up. But it's a good idea to have plans for different times that you spend a lot of time. So maybe they're in school 8 hours a day or so, and you're at work 8 hours a day. What about the other times? What's your plan for reunification anywhere they are? Know who to contact.
And just have like if you can make it there safely, a central location
Yes.
to get to. I know, I mean, a lot of people, I know all of us work in Seattle, and so it's trying to figure out and talking with our significant others about where we're going to meet up, because my wife works in Puyallup. So from Seattle to Puyallup, there's a large amount of area. So we actually have to have a pretty serious discussion on where we're going to hang out, I guess, or
Yeah,
get to.
man, because if the train's down or the freeway's packed or whatever, you're stuck, right?
And like every movie and every TV show, the freeways are always packed.
Right,
so,
of course they are.
Yeah, and I mean, especially around here, it's always the traffic's always
Yeah,
terrible
that's
anyway.
like normal day.
Yeah,
It's not-
yeah. You ever try to leave on like a Friday morning before like Memorial Day or anything?
Forget it.
You think you're gonna get away with it at 10 o'clock? Everything's packed. Yeah, just imagine if there's an earthquake or something. You're super screwed. And go ahead.
I was going to say, you plan ahead for that, though. You know the traffic is going to be really bad.
Yeah,
This is another time where you might know the traffic is going to be really bad. So
yeah.
maybe in a different way for a much longer time, but think about bridges that might be out. And
That's a good point. I know my wife's been looking at scooters, like the little 50cc scooters.
Yeah.
She wants to make one that looks like Pikachu. And I told her I'd ride it. I don't know if I'm going to buy my own, but I'll ride with it. She wants to make a scooter club.
You ride behind her.
Oh, yeah, I'll ride bitch on it. I'd do it. We'll see how that works out. Little 50cc ain't going to take me anywhere. I've tried to use those Lime scooters. You saw it. I can't go
It
up a
went
hill on those.
fine.
I couldn't go up a hill with it.
It was fine.
But I mean, even something like that, it's like an alternative little source of transportation as well. And having something like that that's a little more maneuverable. And I know some people love their dirt bikes, especially just riding around Tacoma. You see them everywhere.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, are they?
Yeah, they are.
I'm afraid I usually wipe out on stuff like that. So having all that different sort of preparedness is kind of neat on that as well.
sounds good.
And then finally, what was the last one of the four?
We were talking about getting involved. So Josh was talking about CERT for one thing, the Community
yeah.
Emergency Response Team. That's one way you can do it, just train in basic search and rescue, but also you're meeting a bunch of other people that are interested in that. But there's other groups you can do. We always talk about Map Your Neighborhood. That's a program, and that's also on our EMD Prepare YouTube channel, all the courses. This is just getting together with people, and that's the same thing. Just find out the people in your community who has that chainsaw, who has that training. But then other things, like I've listened to you guys a few times, and you've had some great community folks where Food is Free Tacoma recently.
Yes.
There are a lot of community resources here that just getting to know about them, getting to know the people, going to events with them, that's really helpful because say throw a block party instead of like isolating yourself from your neighbors because these are going to be the first people you talk to in a disaster. So go out and get to know them. Go do community events.
And that's one of the, when I moved and I bought my house, it was one of those concerted efforts that I wanted to do. I wanted to, know my neighbors, but once a month we have our Safe Streets Neighborhood Watch meeting. And I know that on the east side, there are a lot of different ones that have those, and they partner with Safe Streets. And you can go to their website and see the ones that they have because you can find the meetings in your area. And it's like an hour a month that you're like spending doing this, but you get to see a lot of people and you get to see the different people that are around your area. So you can recognize the people that are in your area. And then even they do stuff like every August, the second Tuesday of every August, maybe the first one, they have National Night Out, which is literally a sponsored block party by Safe Streets and others to say, hey, here are all the people in your neighborhood because people will come out for free food.
You did that this year, right?
Yeah.
It was fun?
Yeah, it was a lot of
You
fun.
meet a lot of people?
Yeah, and this one was a little bit more than one last year. It was smart enough because they put it where there's some trees, so there was some shade.
Nice.
So we weren't just roasting in the sun.
Did you write down the doctors?
No.
What?
Well,
Have you not
I
been
didn't
paying
think about
attention?
that. No, I didn't think about that. I was too busy eating hot dogs. It was really good. I know. But no, it's a good point, though. But it's kind of weird, too. It's like, so, what's your name? What's your occupation?
Are you an EMT? Do you have
Yeah,
guns in your house by any chance? Any extra medical equipment laying around?
Yeah, how big is your backyard? I'm just trying to figure this out. You're going to be kind of a creeper on that end.
Little bit.
But at that same point, if you can get people at the National Night Out to come to your normal meetings or even having just them to do these sort of things.
Then you can spread your creepiness out over the course of the year.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
in not so many words, yes. But yeah, it would be learning about your neighbors and finding out what they do. And then, maybe making a mental tally of the people that, getting their information and all that stuff.
Mental tally, Excel spreadsheet.
Maybe.
Well, maybe the Map Your Neighborhood program is a good example of how you can make it a little less creepy feeling, then, I suppose.
Yeah. And if you have a meeting specifically for it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and that's
formalizing it.
Yeah. And at that point, they know what they're coming in for, and it's not just measuring the shape of your skull. Yeah, I turned that into real creep, didn't I?
A little bit.
Damn it. But, preparedness is not creepy, right?
Well, it wasn't.
It wasn't before.
And sorry about that. We're going to take a little bit of a break. We're here with Brian from the Earthquake and I'm just terrible at this. I'm really bad. We're here with Brian from the Washington State Emergency Management Division talking about earthquakes and volcanoes. We're going to BS a little bit more about that in just a few minutes, and we've got some coaster questions.
Oh, I was going to ask that if we had some.
We do.
Nice.
We have a couple of coaster questions, so we'll be back in just a minute.
We're live on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Also, right now, just ready. So
Hi, guys.
What are you saying, Jeff?
just FYI. And also, I asked them. I put out a call that if they have any questions, that they can.
So we might have you just go to that. So if
Yeah.
there is one, like just put up your hand or literally just interject. Just get in the way.
Is there a link for that?
Just go to Facebook.
While we're on Facebook Live, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So.
Take it with you. Yeah.
Take it with you.
I'm not.
Ask a question.
Yeah. Ask a question, you guys. microphone. That was great.
Ouch. Sorry, my knee doesn't work.
I know it doesn't. He broke his knee riding a Lime scooter.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually
I
pretty
knew
great.
those things are a menace.
Yeah. Well,
That's actually the reason they make them. Cities don't allow them is because the injuries and knee injuries go way up.
Oh, that would be.
I knew
massively.
that before we went, but
Yeah.
we still went. Got drunk and broke my knee.
And it was great.
It was super fun.
The more you know.
Yeah. Do, do, do.
All right.
Yep.
Now we get into the weirdness.
Oh, so we are getting into the weirdness, and we are back, and
Should have got coffee.
Oh, you should have gotten coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can't anymore because we're
I know.
like,
We're running out of time.
we running out of time? We're doing coaster questions here.
Oh yeah.
And we got some good coaster questions. Now, if people don't know what coaster questions are, this spawned from when we had Mark Sargent, the flat earther, on.
Oh. Yeah.
Because
Flat Earth.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
It's a little rounder than they think.
Do
but
do flat Earths have earthquakes?
Of course.
Okay, so they still have those.
It's just all part of the simulation, brother.
That's right. That's right. Someone's using the simulation. So even if you live in a flat Earth, you still need emergency preparedness. All people here are accepted, even flat earthers. But so we had him on, and Brogan was at a bar, and he had just mentioned out loud that he was going to be talking to a flat earther, which drew ire and disdain from the crowd. But then he was like, all right, put your money where your mouth is. And right on the back of a coaster, a question. And so Brogan brought, I don't know, like,
He had a bunch.
he had a bunch of just
I
questions,
can imagine.
poorly handwritten questions. And we've kind of changed it up a little bit. We've had Brogan go out to other bars, and he was on Bourbon Street for one of them. I don't even remember which one that was, but I mean,
Probably a couple of them.
couple of them,
This whole
yeah.
weekend.
Yeah, and so we get all these questions, and some of them range from actual questions to the first question we have today. What volcano movie is more realistic? Dante's Peak with Pierce Brosnan, Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones, I don't even know that one, or Joe versus the Volcano with Tom Hanks.
I have to confess, I'm a very bad volcanologist because I've only watched one of those. But I've always heard that Dante's Peak, the one I've watched, is the most realistic for an eruption in the Pacific Northwest.
Is it really? Because it seemed to. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a
Not
little
all of
Hollywood.
it is realistic,
Yeah, it's going to be a little Hollywood when it comes to that. But that's one of those things where they're literally running from the ash coming at them, and
Well, Mount St. Helens, 1980, you get these pyroclastic flows, you get this huge amount of ash coming out of it. It's kind of based on the Mount St. Helens eruption with some acid lakes thrown in there and super hot springs and extra lava flows that you can apparently drive across in your truck.
Well,
Sorry
I
for
mean,
the spoiler alerts, but
so you can't do that then. When somebody is dealing with an eruption or something, and if it's something like that, because we have seen something along those lines with Mount St. Helens. Should you just be like, if you see it and you're in your car, should you just be trying to drive away as quickly as possible, sort of thing? Should you be hunkering down? Because I mean, the ash is going to be, if it's like something like that, it's going to be turning day into night essentially, and it looks just like a horrifying snowfall.
I
at
think
that
if
point.
it's coming at you, this is just my totally unscientific theory. But if it's coming at you like a wall, like in a movie,
Yeah.
you just bite it, dude. You're done. Just lay down. Just go fetal.
well, that's the thing. That's a possibility, though. All these types of events are very unpredictable. You can look at some events. I think it was the 1991 Onsen eruption in Japan, where you see, if you look up a video of pyroclastic flow, there's just this wall of ash coming towards a truck that's driving away. And then, like, right when it's about to catch up to him, it just stops.
Wow.
And that person was extremely lucky, but, I mean, you can always drive away if it's coming towards you and hope that it stops.
And another thing in dealing with something along the lines of with an earthquake or a volcano, maybe not so much with a volcano, but usually earthquakes would kind of would possibly be around with a volcano eruption as well. I would
Possibly, but they're not
Yeah.
necessarily related.
one of the other things I was thinking though along those lines is dealing with like tsunami stuff, because we still have that worrisome. So I saw a graphic that was showing what would happen if a tsunami hit in the Puget Sound, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we're fine. We're in Tacoma. We're cool." And I'm watching the graphic keep going and going down into Commencement Bay and all this other stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, we're fine." And no, we're not.
Brogan and I had that conversation with the guy one time, and I was like, "Dude, what about tsunamis?" He's like, "Yeah, you're like 90 miles inland." I'm like, "There's tsunami like signs, like you know, quite a ways in from the ocean." So tsunami us right now.
I don't have enough water. No, so it is a hazard in here for sure. And the best idea is just if you feel the ground shaking very strongly, you near the water, you're going to want to get to high ground because we do have faults that are even closer than the Cascadia subduction zone. We have a Tacoma fault.
What?
Yeah, there's a Tacoma fault. It runs right through Tacoma.
Really? Like where? Like on like does it go down like Pacific Avenue? I mean, like how close to this are we looking on this?
So I know for sure the Seattle fault goes right under I-90, but there's a Tacoma one that kind of goes through the northern section, I believe. But I'd have to look at a map.
Okay, so
Wow.
like the northern up there. I don't have to worry about that.
Like
Fife's
the
probably
north, no big
Fife's
deal.
probably screwed, but I'm
You would shake a lot.
Yeah.
This is one that'll be right under the ground, so I'm thinking much more intense shaking.
Dude, how
Um,
do you sleep at night? Honestly, like I
having that knowledge.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, you just messed me up for a good week, dude. I'm telling you.
Know it's there and be prepared and know that you can do something about it and know to drop cover and hold on when the earthquake happens.
And that's another thing too. Seeing the videos, you have different videos on that as well. Right on the YouTube page is the drop and cover.
Yeah,
And
were you practicing?
I was not practicing because I'm 40, and unless it's really, really important, I'm not going to do it. But I do have a plan. I remember with the 2000 Nisqually earthquake or 2001
Yeah,
around there.
2001.
Yeah, that one. That was interesting because Brogan and I were living together, and with just this evil wench of a woman, and we ended up. I had just gotten off my security guard shift, and I was sitting down. I was playing some EverQuest on the on the old computer, and suddenly everything started shaking, and I'm like, oh my god! So the first thing I do is I walk and I go and I stand in the door jamb of the bathroom. Then I look up and I also see that we have these gigantic, this high ceiling with all of these like windows across, like right in front of where I was. And I'm like, this probably isn't the greatest spot either. But I mean, it ended and I didn't get hurt. So
Oh, see, that
Yeah.
worked out.
yeah, mostly.
That was
Glad that
pretty
worked out well.
anticlimactic.
Yeah, yeah.
I was expecting something like
No.
something to fall.
No,
or
the whole
something.
the whole building shook, and that was mostly terrifying. But it was, I think, at that point, it was one of the more newer constructed apartments. So I think it was supposed to sway a little bit. I don't know. Like Tacoma construction kind of scares me on those sort of terms because we got a lot of old buildings, and
We're sitting in one.
I know.
Now I know there's a fault that runs under
Yeah,
it.
and
Awesome.
hey, we're on the third story. That's fine.
I know.
Yeah, right. Come see the beautiful Union Club.
I'm sweating right now.
I know you are. I know you are. Is it just the beer?
Maybe.
Do you mind if I throw one more thing in about the volcano hazard?
Please do. Please do. Yeah.
Okay. So this idea of a wall of pyroclastic material coming towards you, hot gas and ash.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is going to happen only, an eruption is going to happen with warning here. They're heavily monitored. And one of the things that'll happen as it gets, well, the nice thing about our volcanoes is most of them have federal land around them, whether it's Mount Rainier National Park, Mount Baker National Forest. They can close that ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
Just know if that's closed, it's for your safety to avoid having these massive ash walls coming towards you.
Yeah, don't maybe go out there, start geocaching right when it's that time when it's
Geocaching.
coming. Well, I don't know. But yeah, like,
Whatever you do.
yeah.
That's what they did around Mount St. Helens too, right? Like they closed it off except for a few people, right?
Yeah, that
like-
would have been a lot worse if it wasn't closed.
And I mean, like, yeah, it's like I remember one of the stories of the guy who's like, "I'm not leaving my spot; it's my place." And I mean, all the power to you on that. Just realize what's more than likely going to happen.
We're all about informed decisions. Just
Yeah.
know that your hazards include this massive
Yeah,
pyroclastic flows and things like that.
yeah, it actually does sound terrifying. All right, next question. Next question. What is the most lava-proof material that is readily accessible in a disaster?
Lava proof.
Yeah,
Is there anything that's lava proof?
like it's like I don't know, like the steel fireplace thing backer I have. I mean, I don't know what that's gonna do.
Is that lava proof?
I don't.
I would doubt it.
Yeah, probably not.
Is there an actual like underground submarine that they made?
Can you just?
So the thing about lava is it's probably going to catch a lot of things on fire, but it takes a lot of energy for it to melt things. I mean, you can even look at videos of like lava flowing over snow.
Really?
It takes a lot of energy for it to melt the snow itself, so that energy itself cools some of the lava to the point where it freezes, and then it just ends up flowing over itself.
Ooh.
So it can go
Wow.
a long ways like that. It can go into the water a little ways, really heat up the water, boiling at some points. But lava is usually going to end up flowing over itself. Now, if it's flowing really close to a wood frame house or something, very
catch
easily
fire,
can catch that
yeah.
on fire. But it's not the lava itself that's going to do that. But you are not lava proof.
So stay away from them.
Yeah.
The last of the coaster questions we've got right now. What is the most underrated or overlooked item you should have in a prepper kit? We did mention the comfort items, but what is something else that maybe people don't necessarily realize that they're going to need?
Well, I'd say comfort and hygiene. That's
yeah.
the thing. So I found it's a little more common in Japan to have this idea. They gave us, my boss went to Japan for learning about their earthquake early warning system and how we can use that here.
Oh, neat.
He came back with something he found in a convenience store, which was a poncho potty.
Really?
So the idea of this is it's like you put yourself in a bag. There's some kits. It's kind of like a human litter box inside there.
all right, yeah.
There you go. How you got to think about how you're going to do that. Whether you need to have like a bucket to flush or
It's a really good. I mean,
Were you writing that down?
I was.
You grabbed your
Yeah.
phone. You're
I
poncho
can write
potty.
this down. Yeah. Well, and that was like I just remember even like when you're going camping and you just get one of those the toilet seats on a stand,
Yeah.
and I mean just something that basic. Just make sure you're pretty far away from your camping site, or else maybe a dog will roll in your own stuff. And
This sounds like a story.
it is okay. Yeah. So again, Brogan and I were camping. We were out
I
there.
didn't want to hear it.
All right. Well, you can just infer everything else from that story,
Yeah.
but we'll just say that the guy didn't know that his dog was rolling in human action
Oh.
and had to take him down to the river.
Oh.
also prepare for your pets if you have pets.
Good point.
There you go. That's another one.
And that's another thing too. Like, it just seriously, like, have food and well, I mean, with the water, just make sure that you're ready for your. I'm thinking for my cats. I mean, you got your dog.
Yeah, I
So-
do.
Maybe their veterinary records.
Oh, good call. If they have any issues on that end too. I've always heard that in a disaster or like a zombie apocalypse, the best place to go is not to the hospital, but to go to the veterinary clinic because they'll have most of the same gear and it won't be bombarded by people who are sick and maybe now zombies. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
That's a good point.
And that's a question too. I mean, I think maybe even, and we talked about this with Josh as well.
You're
I
gonna
think.
talk about zombies right now?
Well, yeah, a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's that sort of everyone's getting emergency prepared on the, the popularity of all the zombie shows and stuff like that. It's like, what's your zombie plan and what are you going to do? And I always hear a lot of people saying, well, I'm going to go to, I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to go to Costco. And I'm like, everybody else is doing that. Maybe not so much, but it's got to be kind of exciting on those sort of terms that people are even just thinking about it just because of Hollywood or like, television boosting up the apocalypse.
So I think there's a preparedness fest somewhere around Seattle, maybe like Normandy Park area. They do Zombie
Oh.
Fest every year.
Nice.
Might not be annual, but they at least had it a couple of years ago, and that was just a big preparedness event. There were a lot of preparedness vendors and things there. We were there.
Nice. And so, like, what kind of vendors do you see like that? Is it a lot of the like I was talking about with like the Cabela's and the Bass Pro Shop sort of things like those, or like
Some of those, but more like American Red Cross and then preparedness materials, that sort of thing.
and people can go to like those sites as well to get a lot of information as well. I would imagine. Nice. I do like that.
Yeah, we just like to recommend going to your local emergency management first because they're going to have what's most specific to your area, what you need, most well informed in that because they live here.
Yeah, and I
So-
mean, we have a way different landscape than like Nevada, where you're from,
Yeah,
Scott.
yeah.
And I mean, even if you're on the eastern side of the mountains, at that same point, it's going to be a completely different needs than what you need on the western side. So
Yeah, no tsunamis over there, I don't think.
probably not.
I really hope not.
No.
Yeah, but like wildfires and stuff, you'd
Yeah,
have to deal
definitely
with
wildfires.
because that's. I mean, we didn't get a whole lot this year, which was, I mean, nice.
We're lucky.
But I mean, I even remember just dealing with that one storm that we had here that was just like 1,200 lightning strikes in just one strip that went almost just like right up I-5. It was really kind of creepy to watch because it was hitting in Puyallup and we were watching the lightning strikes when it was lighting up the whole sky.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah. Did you have to deal with that?
Not really.
Oh,
But
okay.
I don't even think our power went out. Like, it might have flickered a little bit, but I don't even think it went out.
Yeah, a lot of people were stressing about it. My wife was stressing about it. She's been stressing a lot about the emergency preparedness. Maybe not so much as you.
I don't stress
freaking
about,
about
it.
it?
I just know I read a lot of dumb shit, right? So I read a lot of like articles about asteroids hitting. Like, I just read a lot of that stuff, man. And so like when I see like the volcano, I just think about it. I'm like, man, that thing could just go off any minute.
Yeah, but what I mean, like, seriously,
What are you gonna
if
do?
Yeah, you're gonna drive towards it, and you're like, well, here's your plan, and you're like, it's the whole, you know.
I mean, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
And it's great up here because a lot of the roads frame the mountain. Like I think they planned it that way, right? Where you turn down certain roads and all you see is just this beautiful mountain out there,
Oh,
right? Yeah, but it's just death. It just seems like a giant mountain of death to me.
Well, again, you don't have to think of it that way.
Right.
Again, the most of the things that happen are going to be much smaller eruptions. Catastrophic is not the norm. If it was,
Well, yeah.
we'd have a lot more to worry about. But
But it's happened. It happens in quite a few places around the world, though. I mean, it's happened. We've had volcano eruptions all the time, right?
it's true.
Yeah.
There's currently 45 to 50 volcanoes erupting right now around the world.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
and I
40,
mean-
did you hear that?
Yeah.
And you're like, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it was like if it's around the world, I understand around the world, but I'm like
Dude.
usually more focused about what's going on over here. Jeff, what do you got over there, dude?
So I have a coaster question.
Uh-oh.
Nice.
Christopher. And it says, as we are set on the Ring of Fire,
Ooh,
which area is higher risk? California's fault line or Washington's Mount Rainier?
Ooh.
Oh, that's tough to compare. So we can certainly compare seismic hazard on that.
Mm-hmm.
We're second highest in the United States, right behind California, because they have a lot more people living right in the immediate risk zone from that fault line than we have from the Cascadia
So
subduction
it's based
zone.
on population then.
So
risk more
population and how frequently the earthquakes happen as
Oh.
well. That's kind of how they do it. But our volcanic hazards are completely different, so it's tough to say. I mean, if we had to pick which one would go next, Mount St. Helens has erupted the most frequently. And those have tended to happen, like on average, every 30 to 50 years,
Wow.
an eruption.
I mean, so we're due. I mean, everything's rebooting quicker than the volcanoes are going.
So our volcanoes are better than their earthquakes. That's what you're saying?
Well, they're certainly better to look at.
yeah,
Like you said.
Screw you, Callie. And I mean, they already got all their own problems in that. But a good point was brought up by that. Thanks again for the coaster question, Chris.
Thank you.
And we're on the Ring of Fire, and I mean, like you were just talking about that with all the volcanoes and such. But we do. There's historically, like through all of this, that we have all of these potential issues with this entire volcanic system.
Yeah. Well, you're taking the time to learn about them now, so
Yeah.
that's good. That's empowering you to know what you can do about it. And really, it's just any kind of eruption. Don't be in the way. Don't be in that place at that time. Know how to evacuate in a hurry. So, like Puyallup this year, they evacuated 9,000 school kids. That's perfect. That's what they should be doing.
Wow.
Ording does at least 1,000 every year.
They're super close too, right? Isn't
Yeah.
Ording like they only have a few minutes notice or something?
They have about an hour approximately.
Oh, okay. So
from
what's
the
few
notice.
out? Like 90?
An hour to 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
So
See?
these things can.
That's
It
not bad.
depends on how much water's in them. It depends
Mm-hmm.
how much other materials in them. Maybe they picked up some bridges along the way because they can do that.
Wow.
But
That's
part
a
of it
trip,
too,
right?
Yeah. Like
It is.
I've seen like and like again looking them on YouTube, and you see like footage of like flash floods and stuff like this, and it's one thing to see those and be like, oh yes, this is something it can do, but it's another thing if you're in the midst of it and trying to keep a level head is going to be hard at best with that. So just being able to go through these and have it be a little bit of a muscle memory or a second nature
Exactly.
is going to help you in a long run when you're panicking, when you're trying to think of where family members are and go pick up the pets and do all these different things. You need to just have a plan, and you need to practice with those plans because you don't know when anything's going to happen.
Yeah. So one thing with that as well is you got to get all those things together, but they've run traffic simulations and things like that. And if everybody in Ording gets in their car, a lot less people are getting out on time. So practice walking your routes because really that's going to be what gets you out of there on time.
That's a good point.
Keep those roads open for emergency responders, especially. The fire department down there is really good at getting in there, and they practice. They're the first ones on the road as soon as that siren goes off.
Are they? Do they have? They need like special like snowplow attachments
Just to get the
push
cars out of the way. It's like
Yeah.
Mad Max sort of
Yeah,
stuff
why
going
not?
on. Bring your bulldozer, just push it out of the way. That's another one. Find out who the general contractors are around your area and where they keep all of
Their
their
heavy
equipment.
equipment.
Yeah,
Just in case, you never know.
you never know.
I have to armor some things.
Brian Turbish, thank you again so much. Again, the Washington State Emergency Management Division, mil.wa.gov/prepared. or preparedness.
Preparedness is a good place to
Preparedness.
start.
There we go. And we have all the links on all of that. Thank you for spending some time with us. And seriously, everyone out there, thank you so much for listening. If you guys want to help us out monetarily, financially, and help us get the gear and help us do some fun stuff, they can
Yeah,
go
we didn't
to.
talk about our Patreon at all, huh?
We didn't. Now we're talking about it.
Yeah.
We're kind of leaving it towards the end
I
on
know,
that.
everybody's hanging up right now.
Yeah, which is fine, but because we got the links right there. But patreon.com/Grit City Podcast. $4 a month gets you access to all of the old school episodes with Brogan and Scott and Derby Girls and
Yeah.
comedians spitting
Those were
in
the
his
best
beer.
ones, really.
Were those really the best ones? Really gotta say that right now?
No,
Really said that
they
right there?
probably aren't.
But it also gets you access to the live feed. And,
But they're only $4 too, right?
Exactly, and that's $1 an episode. So for a month.
That's
so
what we do.
Very, very helpful in that.
Yep.
Higher tiers will get you sweet gear from Shroom Brothers, including the limited edition T-shirts.
They are, because I think I have to change them up. I have too many black and white T-shirts in my thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have
So we're
to
going to have to get some color to that?
Yes,
So
man.
let us know if you guys have suggestions on what should be the next color for our shirts or the colors that you would like to see. And, I mean, if you order them in specific colors, we'll make that happen.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, also find us at gritcitypodcast.com. All of our social media is right there. And I mean, right here, you can just click it and do all that fun stuff. Send us some feedback. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whatever thing you listen to us on. Because if you do that, you send maybe a screenshot of it and send us a message about that you did that. And you know what? We'll send you some stickers.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because we got a lot of stickers from diecutstickers.com, and they've been pretty awesome in helping us out with all of that stuff. And,
Yep.
I mean, you heard it on this episode because that's the ad that I ran.
Ooh.
Yeah, see, look at that. But seriously, guys, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Get your ass prepared out there. Go to the Washington State Emergency Management Division, mil.wa.gov, to get all of that information. Brian, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thanks a lot for having me.